Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we've taken over an hour of expert advice from a veteran school director and boiled it all down into a 5-minute survival guide for teachers. The goal here is pretty simple: help you build a classroom that's effective, harmonious, and, most importantly, conflict-free.
And let's just start with this because it really gets right to the heart of the matter. Everything we're going to talk about, from how you set up your classroom to handling those really tough conversations, it all boils down to this one thing: communication. Getting that right is the absolute key to a less stressful and way more successful school year.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to cover starting before day one, making your classroom conflict-proof, mastering parent communication, figuring out the traits of the most dangerous teacher, and finally, knowing the rules to protect yourself. Let's dive in.
All right, first section. Look, a successful year doesn't just magically begin on the first day of school. Nope, it starts way earlier with you understanding the environment you're walking into. And you might be surprised, there are some real factors that can actually predict where conflict is most likely to pop up.
So you gotta wonder, right? Which schools actually face the most complaints? It's a fascinating question, and believe it or not, the data points to 4 key risk factors that can help predict the likelihood of parent complaints. Let's break them down.
Okay, so take a look at this. At first glance, you might think, oh, it's all about the location, urban versus local. But look closer. Check out school culture and leadership. A school with a stable, experienced staff and leaders who actually empower their teachers, that is a much, much safer place to be than one with constant turnover. It just goes to show you what happens inside the school walls can be a massive shield against conflict.
So what's the most powerful first move you can make? Forget the welcome letters, forget the emails. It's a simple phone call. Seriously, as soon as you get that class list, start dialing. When a parent hears your actual voice before the year even kicks off, you're building a foundation of trust. It means that the very first time they hear from you, it's not because there's a problem. It's because you're starting a partnership.
Okay, so you've built that initial trust. Now that foundation extends right into your physical space. From the second someone walks through your door, your classroom is sending a message. And that message can either invite harmony or, well, it can silently start to breed chaos. Now I know what you might be thinking. Messy floors, closed blinds, these seem like small, kind of trivial details, right? But you've got to think of them like symptoms. A chaotic space, kids sitting around with nothing to do, or a teacher who's always late, these are all visible signs that the classroom structure is starting to crumble. And that's exactly where the bigger behavioral problems love to take root.
And listen, this is where classroom management gets really serious. Something that seems like a simple disciplinary move, putting a kid's desk in the hallway or by the trash can, that can have real legal consequences. It could actually be seen as violating that student's rights, and that just opens the door for formal complaints you do not want to deal with.
All right, this brings us right to the daily grind of communication, the real front lines. This is where that early phone call you made really starts to pay off. And it's where you, every single day, have the power to turn someone who could be an adversary into one of your strongest allies.
Just look at the difference here. It's night and day. On the left side, you've got language that's all about accusation. It just attacks and immediately puts a parent on the defensive. But on the right side, it's just describing behavior neutrally and inviting a conversation. Remember, your goal isn't to win a fight in a contact book. It's to solve a problem together. And hey, even something as small as the color of your pen sends a huge message.
Now this 4-step protocol, it's absolutely non-negotiable. If a student is unaccounted for, you have to act immediately, and you have to document everything. Following these steps isn't just good practice, it's a critical shield against liability. It's you, on paper, proving you've done your job and fulfilled your duty of care. So, we've looked at the school, we've looked at the classroom, now it's time to look in the mirror. Let's talk about the teacher. What kind of personality, what kind of educator is most likely to end up facing an investigation? And I'll tell you, the answer probably isn't what you think.
It's not as simple as being strict or lenient. It's not about that at all. The real risk, the real danger zone, comes from a very specific combination of how you communicate or don't communicate with parents and how you apply discipline in your classroom.
And here it is. This chart breaks it all down. The teacher who is at the absolute highest risk, the one in that danger zone, is the teacher who combines distant, poor communication with super rigid, uniformly strict discipline. And just think about why that's such a perfect storm, right? A problem pops up, the parent has zero relationship or trust built up with you, and the kid feels like they're being treated unfairly by this totally inflexible system. That combination right there, it's a total magnet for complaints.
And finally, let's talk about knowing the rules. Look, being an empowered professional means you understand the basic rules of the game. This isn't about being cynical or negative. It's about being smart. It's about protecting yourself so you can keep doing the incredibly important job that you love.
Okay, this is a tough one, but it is absolutely crucial for every teacher to hear. In a formal investigation, your good intentions do not matter. The system doesn't care what was in your heart. It only looks at the objective outcome of your actions. I meant well is just not a defense if a student was harmed. Period.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. Our whole education system is designed around the idea that kids are allowed to make mistakes. That's how they learn, right? So, as the demands on teachers get more and more complex, and the stakes get higher and higher, shouldn't we offer that same grace to the people guiding them? It's a question really worth thinking about. That's all for this explainer.